Good evening. I'm calling this meeting to order. The time is precisely 5:30 p.m. in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. This meeting is officially open with a quorum present. We will now move to our pledges, which will be led by Ms. Claudia Garibay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
I'd like to turn it back over to Ms. Garibay for our recognition. Welcome to each of you.
Thank you. President Jackson, trustees, and Dr. Ramsey. Today, we are recognizing National Native American Heritage Month. National Native American Heritage Month, observed throughout the United States in November, acknowledges and celebrates the history, culture, and contributions of this country's Native Americans. The Fort Worth ISD proudly supports its 326 Native American student population, representing more than 81 different tribes in the United States. The district offers an American Indian education program that provides the district's Native population with academic, social, and emotional support through cultural education and referrals. Students participate in field trips throughout the year to Native American events. They also take part in the American Indian Education Summer Cultural Camp, as shown on the photos that are on the screen right now. The summer camp focuses on cultural knowledge and academics. Students learn about Native language, pottery, Native beading, basket weaving, music, dance, to name a few. The program seeks to ensure Fort Worth ISD Native American students complete high school, prepare for a post-secondary education. District representatives work with students to seek scholarships and help them navigate the College Board Indigenous College Guide. And to celebrate National Native American Heritage Month and its rich history and traditions, Briscoe Elementary will welcome families Saturday, November 12th from 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Now in its second year, this free event, hosted by the Briscoe Elementary Parent Action Team and the Fort Worth American Indian Education Program, introduces the public to Native attire, music, instruments, dance, food, and much more. Attendees are invited to participate in multiple activities celebrating Native American culture, including arts and crafts and Native story time. There will also be a book giveaway for students. It's definitely a celebration you don't want to miss. And by the way, we have here with us tonight a special group, members of the Native American Fort Worth ISD student body, who are also part of the program. Now at this time, I would like you guys to please stand to be recognized. We also have with us the administrators who support the program, as well as parents. If you could please, at this time, stand to be recognized. Thank you. This concludes our recognitions.
Thank you, Ms. Garibay, and thanks to each of you for being here this evening. We'd like to ask one favor. Would you take a picture with us? Allow us to take a little 3-minute break. Is that okay? All right, we'll see you right up here. Thank you. And at this time, we'll move to item number 4 on the agenda. Dr. Ramsey, we're ready for the Lone Star Governance Early Math Progress Update, Goal 2, Early Math Progress Update.
Thank you. This evening, we're going to call up a couple of our chiefs, Jerry Moore and Dr. Sorensen, as well as our Associate Superintendent, Sarah Arispe, and as well as we have a special guest with us. We were talking about how to bring the data alive, and the best way to do that is to bring practitioners that can speak to how this is actually happening in our schools. So we're going to turn over to, I think, Associate Arispe will start.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ramsey. President Jackson, members of the board, happy to be with you tonight to present progress on our Lone Star Governance Goal 2, which is early mathematics. And just a reminder, we'll be looking at data not only for your goal, which is with grade 3, but for pre-K through second grade data, because we know that early learning builds the foundation for our grade 3, and we want to focus on that building up to grade 3 and beyond. So first, our goal 2 is early math grade 3. These are our data for the past 5 years with no data the year of COVID, 2020. We see that in 2021, the first year post-COVID, we were at 17%. We made a great 12-point gain, although that's still low at 29%, and we want to recognize that. We did not meet our goal last year, but thanks to the hard work of our teachers and our students and our families, we did make a good gain. If we continue that 12-point gain, we will be back on track for 2023. So I know that there's a lot of work going on in our schools, and we look forward to meeting or exceeding that goal as we try to gain back some of that unfinished learning that we experienced during COVID. And we'll remember that as we look at our student groups and our goals by student groups, that math was disproportionately impacted during the pandemic. And we saw that both in Fort Worth, in the state, and in the nation, where students at home may have been engaged in some reading activities. Very few students were engaged in mathematics, and so there is more ground to gain there. I also wanted to remind you that in our STAR test, while the board goals are set around the meets, we also saw gains, nice gains, at approaches and masters, showing that students all across the district in different performance levels are gaining back in mathematics, and happy to see that. Now we'll look at our Goal Progress Measure 2.1, which includes Circle and Texkia data. Those are the data from our pre-K students and our kindergarten students. Due to the age of the students here, these are more of a performance task. So they're not necessarily directly aligned to STAR or to our MAP data. Students in pre-K might do things like with their teacher, the teacher asks them to count to 5, and they demonstrate that in a performance task. At kinder, they might complete a pattern, so STAR, circle, STAR, and the teacher would ask them what will come next. So these performance tasks, we have students, pre-pandemic, we were at 83%, and you see that dip there for these students as well to 67. Last year, we came back up to 73, and know that we are working hard to make those gains back there into the 80s as well. These are the goals by student group as well. So for beginning of year this year, we were at 55% compared to 53% at beginning of year last year of students on track when we look at pre-K and kinder combined. We can look at that by student group, and you see those gains in most student groups as well compared to last year. Let's take those apart and look at pre-K only. Pre-K only, we are about the same as we were last year, so consistent with performance at beginning of year last year. And this includes both English and Spanish testers, as you see those numbers there. Now we look at kinder, this is where we're seeing more of the gain. So the gain that we saw overall is mainly attributable to the kinder students. They are a little higher this year than they were last year, remember that we're talking about building the basis down here, the foundation, so they may have gotten a better, more full and complete pre-K year last year as they came in stronger this year. We saw, especially during the pandemic and even when we came back virtual, less consistent student attendance in these lower grade levels for pre-K and K. So we're very happy to have those young learners back in the classroom consistently with their teachers. For Goal Progress Measure 2.2, this is map growth mathematics for grades 1 through 3. So again, not on target following the pandemic. Pre-pandemic, we were trending above our goals. So we are looking to gain back to that. These are our goals by student group. And just a reminder that the box section, the goals for 22-23 were set about 4 years ago when the board first made these goals. The data above that in gold are the actual data for those years that have already passed. Here, we're going to look again at our bars and diamonds chart, and I know the board is expert now in reading this bars and diamond chart. So we're looking to have the diamonds touch the bars to meet the national norms. When they're down into the bars, that's a good thing. That means that we are exceeding the national norm. So we see that, again, our early learners who were pre-K and K during pandemic are coming back first grade. We have some work to do to build those foundations they may have missed. But we're starting to catch up to that in second grade and above. You'll see that second grade's there, third grade's almost there, but look at fourth, fifth, sixth, down into the blue bar. This is good work on the growth for our students and our teachers. And even at 7th and 8th, that diamond is touching the bar, which we don't always see at middle school. So we're happy to see that growth across the board in those upper grades and working on filling any gaps remaining from the pandemic with our young learners. Here is the data compared. Beginning of the year last year is the tan bar. Beginning of their year this year is that bluish green bar, and then you see the national norm above it. So pretty consistent there for first, second, and third grade, and this is the RIT score. And just a reminder that RIT is the unit that MAP measures in. So if we're measuring height, we'd be looking at inches or feet. In MAP, we measure in RIT score units. Here's the data for the Spanish testers. Right now, we don't have a lot of testers in Spanish. That's about 100 students in first grade testing in Spanish and under 50 in the second grade. Remember that our bilingual program, the model has been that mathematics has been taught in English, so we have less testers in Spanish there. That's not unexpected. Here's a comparison of first grade across student groups. So you see that we're just maintaining beginning of the year, little variation there. Same thing with second and third grades. One of the other things that we use MAP for is to project to STAR performance. So this is a projection from the beginning of year, which is the short dark bar. 17% are projected to meet expectation at the meets level, compared to the orange bar, which was the actual STAR last year. So that tells you right now we're not projected to have as many students in third grade meet on mathematics as we did last year. However, we're at the beginning of the year. We have a lot of great things happening in classrooms around the district, and we know that this is not a self-fulfilling prophecy. That teachers see that. They use these data instructionally to see where each student is. We're looking at an aggregate and then work with that student to meet their needs. So we'll be back with our middle of year data and hope that we're seeing that gap close to more students projected to meet standard on STAR. This is by student group. Same data, so our projections. And then finally, goal 2.3 is our MAP growth for kindergarten mathematics. Kinder was added a little bit later, so baseline was in 2021. Here we have surpassed our goal. So last year we were at 42% at the end of the year. The goal was 40. So we fully anticipate that we will continue to see kindergarten exceeding that goal this year and beyond. Here's the data by student group, and then compared to the RIT score. Last year versus this year, it's down 1 point, but fairly consistent. That's the Spanish, and by student group. I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Sorensen to introduce some special guests.
So this month we thought we would do something a little bit different. We have shared the mathematics framework with you, and we thought that we would introduce to you the folks who are doing the very important work, boots on the ground. So I have the pleasure of introducing two of our principals to you, Miss Jody Cortade, who is our principal at Harleen Beale, and Principal Alvarez, who is our principal at MH Moore, and their teachers. We have with us, we have our fantastic teacher who teaches math and science, and the reason that I know this is because I met Mr. O'Bannon at our science fair, but he is also doing incredible work in math at MH Moore, and Miss Martin, who is our first grade math teacher over at Harleen Beale. So without further ado, I will turn it over to them and let them share their amazing work that they're doing at both of their campuses. So Mr. Alvarez, I believe that you are first.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity again. And I would like to talk about Eureka. The curriculum is allowing us to have consistency across campus and also vertical alignment. The work that we see in the classrooms with teachers like Mr. O'Bannon, where students are engaged, is fast-paced based on best practices. We have visuals, we have manipulative, we have those fluency routines that are going to help our students get that math, the mental understanding of the concepts, which is something that we need based on the needs. Also, the parental engagement when we have, for instance, with the homework, the new curriculum includes the homework assistance, where it details all the sequence of the steps that the kids need to take to solve the problems. For instance, we have 2 weeks ago at Event on Campus or Math Night, where students build with their parents Reconrex, which is a manipulative like an abacus, and they were solving problems with them. They took the manipulatives home, so they continue to use those manipulatives to solve the homework at home with their parents. So parents are very engaged with the curriculum. Our students, here we have Mrs. Spinelli, one of our 5th grade class, and you see the Reconrec there with one of our students in Mr. O'Bannon's class. So the curriculum, what we see across the campus is consistency, is rigorous learning in all the classes. So we are going to see the return on investment by using this curriculum. And I would like to pass it over to Mr. O'Bannon now.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here. So basically, just to say what Mr. Alvarez was talking about, you know, that the Eureka curriculum is vertically aligned. It's very rigorous, but it is adaptable for all students at wherever level they are on. So, you know, the thing that I like about it, and I've noticed that I've seen vast improvements and the data has shown, is that it focuses on the fluency of math. You know, teaching reading for many, many years in 1st grade and, you know, in a self-contained classroom, we always talked about reading and the fluency. Now we're talking about the math and the fluency and the importance behind that. And that is one of the biggest things or takeaways that I really enjoy about Eureka. And it also gives the students the deeper understanding of the why behind the numbers. I've seen students that are more engaged. I see that it's more student focused, more student driven. It's about the students. You know, it's a routine, and students know we're going to go in, we're going to work on our fluency, we're going to then work on our application problem, then we're going to work on our concept development, we're going to have an exit ticket to see how they did, and we're going to have that daily debrief. All these components are in there daily. So there is no downtime. There's no time for the students to misbehave, they're all actively engaged. We're working together as a team. We're learning the process together. You know, I tell them each and every day, I'm learning this with you. This is a brand new curriculum. We're learning together. And so, you know, I've seen the data has shown in my class, I have seen them become successful. I've seen those that never would engage before to start to engage. You know, and the thing about it is, they also thought, pretty much Eureka thought about everything. They thought about, let's make this scripted as well. So if I didn't understand a concept, I can look at that script before giving that lesson, and I can teach myself that lesson before I introduce it to my students. So it basically takes out those misconceptions that we may be getting. And really, honestly, like Mr. Alvarez was saying, the homework, it gives you a homework helper. It helps us, the parents, to be able to guide their child when they're doing homework. It also comes with manipulatives. You know, they'll cut out the little bitty counters if counters are needed. All that comes together. And those, we make sure that the resources are sent home, like scissors, if it chooses activities for scissors for this homework, pencils, markers, whatever they need. And they did build those record racks, and they take those home and use those as well. And we use this, we made a set in our classroom to use as well. So, you know, for right now, because the curriculum is so new, the end result is not there yet, but I'm excited to see what that's going to look like. Thank y'all.
I would like to add something else. I really appreciate the support from Dr. Sorensen, Mr. Moore, Mrs. Caballero, providing professional development for our teachers and differentiated professional development. So we are focusing on what the teachers need, if we need support on fluency training, on the concept development. So the training is being provided. So we feel as a campus that we are in an excellent place to be successful with the implementation of the curriculum.
I don't know mine, does it have? Just bring it closer? Okay. At the risk of sounding repetitive, that's exactly what we were excited about. After we received training on this curriculum this summer, we were excited about having a quality curriculum that really addresses student needs. It really teaches them the foundational skills that they need and the number sense, understanding why you are doing this in mathematics, not just getting a standard algorithm in front of you, but it really teaches the students why they are doing this and how to manipulate those numbers. So we were really excited about that as well, and and again, just the consistency across grade levels. We had vertical alignment meetings yesterday, and the academic vocabulary that they're utilizing in kindergarten, they are able to see that transfer across grade levels and collaborate more. I'm a small campus, so at a couple of my grade levels, I only have one math teacher. So to be able to have opportunities to collaborate with your peers using the consistent language across those grade levels is exciting to us. And also, again, like they said, it addresses every component of mathematics, that fluency, having that automaticity when you come to facts, applying the skills that the teacher is teaching you in the application, developing the concept that you're learning today, and then wrapping that up at the end of the lesson with your teacher. So that's what we are really excited about on our campus, and we just really anticipate getting more data from our students to show what they are learning in the classrooms.
Well, not to be repetitive, I will speak to something different because I agree with everything that's already been said. Coming from the instructional planning point of view, it takes the heavy load off the teacher, and it's like a all-inclusive stop. I mean, everything you need is there. It gives you the why behind we're teaching it this way. And it allows us to see how the TEKs are vertically aligned. It tells us the supporting TEKs, like the TEKs they had before, like from kinder, how that supports what you're teaching in first, and how what you're teaching in first is preparing them for second grade. And it's all right there for us. We don't have to do a lot of research. It's right there for us. We just need to internalize it and implement it. And it takes the burden off of me, and it allows me to be more present in the classroom with the students. And I'm not missing any cues from the students, and I'm able to build more relations with them. It's an all-inclusive curriculum, and I'm so glad you guys chose to implement it this year.
So we thought we would bring you the experts in the field doing the work. So we thank you very much for the work that you guys do. You guys are doing the heavy lifting every single day. And so thank you very much for being here.
Do we have any questions of the board? That was a great presentation, by the way, and thank you for bringing in people that are working every day and showing this board, and the city, and the attendees what's going on every day in these schools. And I do want to make one personal note. Harleen Beal was a mentor of mine from the time I was a preteen till I was a not-so-good teen and became a better young adult. She would be so proud of you. So thank you for representing the school that's named after her. Questions, Trustee Andar.
Thank you, President Jackson, and thank you for this report. I'd like to echo what Dr. Sorensen has said to the administrators and to classroom teachers. Thank you so much. I know there are only 2 administrators and 2 classroom teachers sitting right here, but my thank you extends far beyond the people who are represented in this room, because I know that you are doing the heavy lifting and you are doing the hard work that our kids need and our kids deserve in our community. It makes our community better, so thank you so much. First of all, yay for we're moving up, we're moving in the right direction. I appreciate this good news. I also appreciate the fact that we recognize that there is still a lot more room for improvement. And I'm a parent, and I know that I want for my children to have an even better life than I ever thought I might have. And I believe that that is true for the majority, if not all, parents as well who want that for their children. So my question is is two-part. One, how are you communicating with the parents when a child is in need of some additional assistance, when they're not performing on level? How are you communicating with the parents? But then how are you empowering the parents to help their child to become more successful in the math realm? And math is an intimidating subject for many people, for many very educated adults, not to mention adults that may not speak the same language or may not have the same level of education, but yet the same passion for their children and the same desire for them to learn. You touched a little bit on the homework helper, so I'm thrilled about that, and I'd love to hear more about that. But how are you communicating with parents when their child isn't performing on level? And then how are you empowering parents to help their children?
Our teachers are, we have daily communication with the parents about behavior, and if there is an academic concern, they include that with the parents as well. And we are on our campus ensuring that we have at least one parent meeting per 6 weeks with the parents, whether it be phone. Some of them can't come in, we try to Zoom. We do something every 6 weeks to reach out to the parents, to communicate with them how their students are doing academically, so that they aren't ever caught off guard by the areas that their children may struggle with. And also, like they said, Eureka does include in it a parent communication letter that we send home as a campus, and in that communication letter, it explains to the parents what they did in class, even providing examples and like a little teach piece to parents so that they know what their students are learning at school. And the final thing that we did, because our parents did feel, our boundaries changed this year, and so we got a lot of students in, and our parents felt a little disconnected from us. So we did send home a parent communication letter with office hours that they could schedule any time to have a conference with either an administrator or the teacher outside, in addition to knowing their planning times. But you know, if they needed a Spanish-speaking person available, we put that on the parent communication letter, and we honor that anytime that they want to communicate with the school. And we try to communicate out to them consistently that our doors are open, and any question that they ever have about what's happening in the school, we are more than willing to share that with them.
Is that, I'll let you answer too, is the homework helper page, is that in Spanish as well as in English? Yes. Excellent, thank you.
Also addressing the communication, we are using different sources of data. With Eureka, we have exit tickets, so we have different assessments that we can use to monitor student growth. So we don't have to wait until we have the middle of the year map data to actually address the needs of the students. So we are having, as a campus systems, we have SST meetings multiple times every 6 weeks. So we are meeting with the parents, we are analyzing the data, and we have additional levels of support on campus. And one example is if we have a Title I interventionist, that is a teacher that working directly with students based on the data that we are gathering over the weeks. We also have a Title I teacher assistant, and we just started using Dreambox. In Tyler, I used Dreambox for several years, and we saw a really high return on investment because the program is differentiated. So students are able to work on their unique pathways based on the placement test. But teachers have the power to assign specific skills to the students based on those Eureka assessments. Let's say Mr. Osmanon is working with specific students on 2.2C. He can go to Dreambox and assign that skill to the student. So we are working on different levels. And with the communication with parents, we are also making our time pie larger. So we are promoting the use of Dreambox at home also and after school to give us more time and usage with the software. We know the software is effective, is differentiating for our students. Teachers can also adjust based on needs. So we are working with the parents there. So at more, we started the Piece of Pie Club, where we are celebrating a student success and achievement on Dreambox, and also working with parents to make sure students have more time and more access to that software. So together with Eureka, this new tool that we have is aligned with the new curriculum.
I'd like to add that the practical side of Eureka, the language is vertically aligned. So parents that get homework from a first grader to a fifth grader, they're going to see read, write, draw. So they're going to see common strategies and alignment in the verbiage. So that's a positive thing for a parent that might be intimidated by the homework or might not know how to help their student. They're going to see common language in the assignments.
We didn't get an opportunity to introduce our assistant principal, so maybe she can introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Katie Myers. I'm the assistant principal at MH Moore.
Okay, thank you so much for that information. I appreciate the partnership that you're developing between the parents and the teacher and the student, that it's all hands on deck. So thank you. I appreciate that response.
Trustee Evans.
Thank you all so much for this, and I echo Trustee Dar's appreciation for the principal and teacher viewpoint. I have been getting a lot of feedback about Eureka. I do know any change or shift is not going to be easy or seamless. So I thank y'all and the leaders and teachers that y'all represent that are leaning in hard to this. I have a question about the slide on page 20. It was where we discussed goal progress measure 2.2. There we go, thank you. So this 83% that are predicted to not meet STAR, have those students been targeted for our Saturday Learning Quest? And then how are we using Eureka to teach math in our Saturday school?
I'll answer the first part, yes.
Okay.
Targeted for the tutoring opportunities as well as Saturday Learning Quest and intervention in the classrooms as teachers look at the map data for each unit and the different areas where students may have struggled or have gaps, because math provides that. And then we have the experts, so we'll let them answer the Eureka.
I actually do Saturday Learning Quest, and what I found is that whoever set up the curriculum for the Saturday Learning Quest, it actually prepares the students for the upcoming Eureka lessons. And so I found that to be very helpful. But also Saturday Learning Quest allows us to be more hands-on with the students, working one-on-one in a smaller setting. and I encourage most of my kids to come.
I too as well teach at SLQ, and I actually have the opportunity to teach 5th grade math. So yes, I agree. It's teaching them the lessons that they're going to be mimicking in the classroom. So it gives them the early access to that lesson. And so it's more of a small group type of intervention with students that are there, that are engaged with it. So, honestly, our 5th grade is so full. There's so many 5th graders participating in the SLQ at Diamond Hill Elementary. So, I mean, I've seen it as being successful. This is my 2nd year to do it. I appreciate the opportunity to be at SLQ because that is something that these students need to fill in those gaps.
Trustee Bridges.
Excuse me, once again, thank you guys for the presentation. I love the fact of having the principals and the teachers here as well, because it gives us a sense of what's going on from a ground level perspective. So I do appreciate that. I just got a couple of real quick questions. One is, I don't know if you guys have been following the data where they showed that rural schools did better in math opposed to urban schools. And my question, more of a comment, why, and it flipped the other way around when it came to reading, that the urban schools did better in reading than they did math. Any thoughts on why that is? I'm just curious.
I think you're referring to possibly the NAEP scores that we saw that just were released. I'd love to know the answer to that as well. I think that's one of the things that we're studying with our students to see how we're recovering from pandemic times and from their learning loss. I'm not exactly sure the answer to that. What I do know is predominantly across the nation that reading didn't take as much of a hit. One of the things that we have to recognize is that reading skills build on prior knowledge. So as you continue to read, you continue to grow. You have to be very specific with your math skills. You're learning specific lessons, specific objectives, specific skills, and if you have those gaps in your learning previously, it's harder for students to progress. I'd love to know what happened in the rural setting. What we know is we need to be more specific with our mathematics instruction, which is why we're really excited about the resources that Eureka provide to us, that we can not only be intentional about our core instruction in the classroom, but as you heard our teachers and principals say, we're really differentiating to our individual students here in Fort Worth.
Thank you. This is part 2 to my question. When you guys look at the data and look at the subgroups, do you ever pull out the data for African American males when it comes to math?
Yes, sir, we do. Actually, once again, I probably could allow our principals and teachers to be asking that question, but all of our campuses, when they get their data, they do an in-depth study of what our student data says, not only as a whole, but by demographics, and we definitely do not just look at a student group in ethnicity, but we actually look at what African American boys would look like as well.
And my last point, because the challenge is so low when it comes to African American boys, could you tell me what intentionality we are focusing on to reach that subgroup?
I think that's a little bit different at each campus, and we would offer any information that Dr. Sorensen or others would like to add on here. What I would tell you is I think our intentionality is knowing our students. At each campus, it's a different reason why students aren't being successful. There's a different reason why African American boys aren't being successful in different schools in different parts of Fort Worth. And so what we're asking our principals to do is not just make a generalization, but actually know the individual students in that demographic group. Look at not only this year's data, not just the testing data that they're currently looking at, but look at previous years' experiences. Go down to the specific skills where students aren't being successful and come up with an individualized plan to respond to what the specific need is. That's the best answer I can give you, is the specificity for each individual student is the best strategy that we're asking our schools to implement.
Last point, because in that same study they talked about African American boys who do better in math, less likely to get caught in the criminal justice system. So, just FYI. Thank you.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you for y'all's presentation on slide 20, where it says no grade 3 students tested in Spanish. So you said the test is taught in English, and how is that affecting our English language learners? Does that put them at a disadvantage? And what happens to the students who did not speak English at all?
Good question. So mathematics in general in Fort Worth ISD right now, under our current model of bilingual that we've had for several years, was that math would be taught in English. If we have a student who comes in new, of course, we'll have them test in Spanish, but for the most part, our students have been receiving predominantly their mathematics instruction in English, and therefore they have been testing in English. We are implementing a bilingual model where we are focusing more on biliteracy now, and so as students come up, that's why that one graph you saw, I said there's about 100 students there. So we're having more students learn in both languages, not only their reading and language arts, but mathematics. So we will see some of those numbers likely increase, but for these data that we're presenting today, there were no third grade Spanish data.
And to add to that, just walking through classrooms and seeing those particular teachers, they're front-loading lessons. So I've been in classrooms where the dual language teacher provides the academic language in English and Spanish. And first they start with the cognates, and then they start with the ones that aren't, and they provide a lot of direct instruction so that there's an understanding of the language before they get to the concept. And so I've been seeing that in our dual language classrooms.
Okay, great, thank you. And thank y'all for being here. And so Eureka was just implemented this year? Okay. And I thank the teachers and principals for coming out and showing their enthusiasm and the success so far. I just hope if we have a hiccup with Eureka, I hope we continue with the program and make the necessary adjustments and not just start a new initiative.
Trustee Martinez.
First, I want to thank you, administrators and teachers, for taking your time out tonight to come and share with us. I love to hear and see it in action. Questions I have is, are there any particular subgroups where you're seeing this curriculum be especially effective? Is there any grades or subgroups or anywhere that you see particularly that it's been most effective?
I teach first grade. And it's given them a number sense that I believe that would be helpful to them as they progress.
So, and when I was thinking about subgroup, the question you asked, when I look at my campus, especially going in the classrooms and looking at the student work and products that we were putting out, it's really being effective for all my students because it allows that differentiation in there to meet the student need where they are. And that's why I was actually talking to Ms. Martin about now. She has started to scaffold those lessons to meet the needs of the kids, but it all brings them back to a common point. So I've seen it be effective really across the board.
Okay.
Okay, what I've seen also, though, exactly. Like I said before, it is rigorous, it's challenging, but it's adaptable to all students. Given that, what I've seen from teaching first grade to second grade, what I really like about it also is that challenging piece, especially for our GT students. So we consider those populations as well, that they are not finishing first or they're really thinking outside of the box, because it's a different type of concept. It looks different to them, but yet they're all working because it's adaptable. So it's actually challenging them as well. So it's a very unique curriculum. It's something that I've never worked with before. I'm learning, like I said, I'm learning as we go and stuff like that, but it's engaging. I've had my GT students come and teach the lesson. I modeled for it, and I gave them the opportunities won't you teach this? And so they're teaching this to their peers. They're engaging. Those peers are enjoying it. They're helping their peers. We do the Kagan strategies in our classroom. So they're partnering up together. They're working together. It is amazing what's happening in these classrooms. And we just now started Eureka this year. So I'm excited to see what the end result's going to look like. Thank you.
And if I can build on him, he was able to loop with his students. And so he's able to see a black and white perspective versus the curriculum last year to this year. And he also, if you implement it with fidelity, you see all three main learning styles. So you see tactile learning style, visual learning style, and auditory learning styles. And so you're engaging all learners with best practices based on research that stands past history, right? Like those are things that stand the test of time, regardless of the curriculum that's being implemented. So that's something that I find encouraging, is that all our students are experiencing best practices daily.
And going back to your question, we see the growth across grade levels. There is no specific pocket of excellence. We see it across the grade levels. That we are really excited about the outcome of this implementation.
Great, that's great to hear. You touched on fidelity. I know, Dr. Sorensen, you always talk about the fidelity of the curriculum. How are we doing district-wide with the fidelity of the curriculum? Have all teachers received professional development around this curriculum, and how are we with implementation?
That's a great question. So at this point, across the district, we are at about 96% of our teachers have received training across the district in our K-5 space. Where we are now, as a matter of fact, I just met with the executive director this afternoon. We're scrubbing our data to really think about where we need to lean in terms of second semester supports. We're going to do some analysis about where our campuses need more support second semester around fidelity of implementation, what campuses are struggling, what campuses need more boots on the ground support from our department, and looking at the data to say what are our campuses based upon ratings, scores, data, do we need to lean into second semester. So we always kind of retool second semester, and so we'll be making those adjustments leaning in. But at this point, about 96% of our teachers across the district have received initial training, and now we're also doing Dreambox. So that'll also help as well.
Oh, great, thank you. And you already answered my next question about campuses that may need additional support, so thank you.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. One, we're always concerned about mobility rates. Being the new kid every 6 weeks to 6 months with Eureka, and I go to a new campus, my data will follow me. Can I just pick up where I left off?
Yes, ma'am. That's the beauty of it, is follow the curriculum. We all have the same resource. Doesn't matter which campus you go to, your data is there and your instruction stays consistent.
That's
And
awesome.
I'm going to add one piece, just because as I do my classroom and school visits, I typically ask the principals for specific grade levels. And the reason is so that I can actually see, if I go see all kinder and first grade, I'm able to see that it doesn't matter what side of town I'm on. I'm seeing very specific, the same curriculum. The teacher may teach it differently because, they have that freedom, but it is consistent, a viable curriculum across the district. And I'm seeing that both in ELA, reading, and also in math.
That's awesome. Thank you. Also, substitutes. So if I'm a substitute and I come in and it's an emergency and there's no lesson plan, how does this work?
So I was looking to my side. I think you heard some of our principals and teachers mention it earlier. The beauty is the lesson plans are there. If you don't have an idea of how to teach, there is a script that actually gives you examples and tells you what you need to say to be able to teach a lesson to students. The work that we're doing with our full-time teachers is having them internalize it so the lesson is more meaningful, but it is definitely there for our substitutes as well.
And it also includes, I think they may have done this during the pandemic, each lesson has a video that even if you are brand new to math or have never, you can go in and view that video, and it's a pre-teach to the lesson. So that will also give you some background knowledge on what's happening in the classroom. And we utilize those videos, even if a student is absent, the teacher may not have the opportunity to go back and teach that lesson that she taught yesterday, but she does have access to a video that she can assign to students, and they can do that to view what they missed.
Great, thank you. And I had one last thing. I love the office hours. Is that consistent throughout the district, or is that a Beal thing?
It's for Beal because we had a large transition in the number of students, and we had parents who were genuinely concerned about my kid came from over here and they had been there since kinder, what's going on here? And so we wanted to make ourselves available to those parents to ease those concerns. So I can't speak for everybody else, but it is something that we implemented at Beal for this year.
I think it's great. I just heard somebody else say it's a great best practice. Trustee Dar, did you have a comment?
I had a quick question. When you mentioned the video, is that a video that's specific for the instructor, or is that something that a student could watch and learn from as well?
Both.
Both, yeah.
I'm sorry, both.
So are we flipping the classroom any? I mean, do kids have access to some of these videos before? Because I'm hearing a whole lot of pre-teaching going on here. Whether it's at Saturday Learning Quest or whether it's vocabulary in their native language and in the English language, there's a lot of pre-teaching that's happening before they're having to actually encounter and master the objective that's being taught by that lesson. Can they watch that video on a phone, on a device, on their computer?
You can assign a video. You can assign an upcoming video. It's the digital portion of Eureka. You can go in and assign videos. And I imagine the parents can watch the video as well.
Heck yeah. That's awesome. Okay, thank you.
Just one to comment on yours, Mrs. Dar. So yes, so that's what we do a lot of times when some of the parents have some misconceptions or don't understand it. You know, we do offer that video and stuff. I also offer the parent to come in, and I don't mind teaching the parent how to teach their child. So that's another opportunity that I allow, for them to come in. I'm going to teach you, go through the process and stuff like that, so we can make sure that your child is successful.
And the video also allows us to have consistency because the video is preparing the teacher to teach the skill in a specific way, using specific visuals, specific manipulatives. So that way we ensure we have consistency and across not only the school but across the district.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Yes, I'm sorry, you brought up something, but, so if we have an accelerated student, are they able to learn faster so they don't get bored in class? And
they have extensions, and Eureka thought of it all. There is challenging questions at the end of every lesson, and sometimes, you can give cutoff. You can do it, I cannot say that word, but you can, what's the word? Differentiate. That one. The lessons, and let's say students A through C will only do 4 questions, whereas my more accelerated students will do all the questions, and they become more challenging as the longer they go.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks to each of you, and I want to say to everybody out there watching, when you call a trustee and you ask us these questions, now you see who you should be calling. Call the schools, communicate with the teachers, because these are your experts. We love to listen to the experts, but we are not the experts. They are. Thank you to each of the experts that have been here tonight. You've done an example. You've set an example, and really, I'd like to take a picture with all of you because this is a new standard. Would that be okay, Dr. Ramsey? Thank you all. And Dr. Ramsey's team is already up for the annual comprehensive financial report for the year ending June 30th, 2022. Dr. Ramsey?
Perfect. I'd like to introduce our Chief Financial Officer, CFO Arrieta Candelaria, our Comptroller Maria Chavez, and from Weaver Tidwell, Jackie Gonzalez, who is a partner there.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Ramsey and President Jackson, members of the board. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to present the 2021 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. This is the report for the Board of Education. So, let me see. Turn it on. So first of all, your independent firm of certified public accountants is Weaver and Tidwell. This is the board engaged this firm in order for them to do the audit for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022. We have Ms. Jackie Gonzalez, as Dr. Ramsey indicated here. She's a partner with the firm, and also Justine Singletary in the audience. He's also part of the team, and they presented to the audit committee today and provided an overview of the audit. They went over the audit process, the audit results and communications, financial highlights, and then had some opportunity for Q&A. Dr. Ryan, Ms. Trustee Dar, and Mr. Trustee Lovanis was there as part of the audit committee and listened to the presentation. Ms. Gonzalez presented there. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Ms. Gonzalez. She's just gonna give you a brief overview of the audit cycle and the audit process.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thank you. It's good to be here, and we enjoyed presenting to the audit committee earlier today. Our audit cycle really is a continuous process as we partner with the district and begin early on with our initial planning, and always keeping our eyes on what you're doing here at the district, but also what TEA is doing, changes that are being made, so that we can begin our planning. And then we come out for our pre-field work in July and begin our work then, and then final field work, essentially the entire month of September we are here so that we can prepare a draft for management and then be able to present to the audit committee, and then finals for you, which is what you have in front of you in the bound book, both our financial statement audit as well as the single audit that we prepared and audited over your federal and state awards. And then we really start that process over. As you know, we're presenting the audit for the year ended 6/30/2022, and I know that is very much in your rear view mirror as you are forward looking. And so we try to stay current and work with management so that you can see not only what has happened, but what is upcoming and to plan for that. So we do perform our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards as well as generally accepted government auditing standards. As I mentioned, in addition to the financial statement audit, we perform a single audit or an audit of your federal and state awards in accordance with the uniform guidance and the Texas Comptroller Uniform Grant Management Standards. We also perform tests of compliance related to the provisions of laws, regulations, contracts, and grant agreements in compliance with either the Public Funds Investment Act or those state compliance requirements set forth by TEA. We do take a risk-based approach, and so a lot of that planning and assessing happens throughout the off time, I guess, when we're not here doing the audit, so that we can really plan our audit each year and focus on the risk for that particular year. So we have here listed a few of those areas of focus for us, which were the federal and state grant revenues and expenditures, which included the ESSER funds, as well as any of the COVID-19 funding that came through. The state foundation school program revenue and the related estimates that go into that calculation, your payroll and payroll-related liabilities, as well as the construction in progress, capital assets, the related depreciable lives. So all of those we spend quite a bit of time testing throughout the course of our audit, as well as the internal controls over financial reporting and compliance. We also test the compliance with your major programs, so those that we single audit for federal and state, as well as those compliance with the laws and regulations that I mentioned.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Now for the audit results and the conclusion. So in the financial statements as a whole, we did receive a clean opinion, an unmodified opinion. There were no material weaknesses identified. There was a significant deficiency that is not considered a material weakness. This is a repeat finding from 2021 related to overtime. I feel that we've made considerable amount of adjustments and improvements to place us in a better position in 22-23 to try to resolve that that significant deficiency. We'll continue to work to move that from the audit. We did not have any noted non-compliance material to the financial statements. On the federal awards, and also you'll see on the state awards, this is important because this was also an unmodified report. We are considered a low risk, and there were, again, no material weaknesses here identified here. No significant deficiencies that were material weaknesses were here. There were no instances of noncompliance that were related to that overtime, related to the federal awards and the state awards. And again, there was no audit findings that were required to be reported. Of note here is our major programs, our Education Stabilization Fund. This is our ESSER money. So this was also some additional comfort to the district, to our staff, that we did not have any findings in these particular areas. Also, this again on the state awards. Again, we received an unmodified opinion. The major program here being this Texas Home Visiting Grant. Some of the other things that we noted was important is that they reviewed the payroll disbursement analysis to ensure that our payroll register and employee listing was in good order. There were no exceptions noted there. In the cash disbursements analysis here, where they reviewed the disbursement register for any gaps in sequence and so forth, again, no exceptions were noted. And then they also reviewed the non-payroll payments to various members of management to ensure that those payments were approved and necessary for district action. Again, here, no exceptions noted. They also reviewed the procurement card analysis, our P card, and noted that there were no exceptions on the test work that they performed. They also reviewed the munis access to determine what are those individuals that have access and is it an appropriate access. Again, no exceptions noted here. Also, here is some comfort for, I think, the board and certainly the public with regards to our major programs. Again, this is our ESSER money and some of the other items. Our major program is Title I. That here, where all costs were charged to the program were consistent with expectation and complied with compliance requirements. Again, that adds additional comfort that we are actually doing some good work in both the state and federal awards. So just to give you some financial highlights as to how we ended the year. First and foremost, our revenues by source for our governmental funds. So this is our general fund, our special revenue funds, capital funds, debt service fund, and other. These, from a revenue standpoint, we get the majority of our money from local and intermediate sources, i.e. taxes, 52.44%. Comes from that. Our state money, 26.66%, and then federal revenues of 20.9%, as compared to 21, where we had 53.84% of local money, 31% of state, and then 14.93% in federal. Looking at it from across the multiple years, beginning in 2018 to 22, you can see how some of the fluctuations where in our federal programs, primarily in 22, where we did receive some ESSER money that was recorded in the general fund. And so we did receive some federal program revenues there. Our state programs are going down, and our local revenues are going up, which is typical how school districts in our particular position, as our valuations go up, then our state revenues goes down. So that's important to see there as well. And then on the next slide is our composition of the expenditures, where we can see the breakdown. Of important to note is that 48.52% of our money does go to instruction, which is important for us to note. That went up from 21 at 42.53%, so an improvement there in a year-over-year comparison. Again, here, we can look across the years as well, where we're seeing, again, some good trend as we move instructional dollars, as we move more instructional dollars into that particular category. You can see that year-over-year trend. Looking at specifically at the general fund budget, some of the highlights: we adopted a budget of $804,989,000. We amended it downward in anticipation because of decline in student enrollment, $799,985. We actually ended the year at $809,136,000, a variance there of 1%, or $9,151,000. On the expenditure side, we started the year with an adopted budget of $865,477,000, amended it to $873,384. And in part, that was due to the expectation of additional hold harmless dollars as well as the federal program revenues there. Our actual expenditures was $739,521, or a variance of 15% of $133,862,000. And again, here we shifted dollars in order to take advantage of some of the ESSER dollars that were available. As also the primary difference is the staffing vacancies that we did not fill or were not able to fill in 21-22. So it's a kind of a combination. Looking at our fund balance and where we ended the year, revenues and financing sources of $809,353,000, and our expenditures of $739,521. So our net change to the fund balance is $69,832,000. So our total fund balance at 6/30/22 is $351,232,000. But our unassigned fund balance did increase by $72 million to end at $301,916,939, which will put us in a position to fare very well given that fiscal cliff when we lose ESSER dollars, which at this point in time, they end on September 30th, 2024. So we can say we're in a good position from a number of days perspective, in positions as well as we move forward into the next 2 years. Some next steps, the deadline for districts or the fiscal year end ending June 30th is November 27th. That's 150 days after the fiscal year ends. And the board is required to either approve or disapprove this report before that deadline. We recommend that the board approve the ACFR in the upcoming item. We have an item on the agenda that's on the consent, item 8H. And then the board is required to sign the document tonight and we put a draft copy in front of all of you, as well as a signature page for Trustee Evans and Trustee Jackson. That once that page is signed, then that page would appear executed on the document. We would submit it to TA. Maria does a submission to TA, and then we upload it on the website. So with that, are there any questions with regard to this report?
Trustee Dar?
Yes, thank you very much for this report, and thank you, Jackie, for being here and representing Weaver and the work that you do from an outside lens to help us stay financially aware of and solvent. So thank you. For a quick question, this really is easy. Following board approval this evening, assuming this is approved, where can the Fort Worth ISD stakeholder, the general public, access this information?
We actually have it on multiple areas on our website. So it would be under financial transparency. It's also under the business and finance and financial services website. So we have it in multiple locations.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Ramsey will introduce the intruder detection audit findings and the team that will present.
We have a team of one this evening. Our Deputy Superintendent, Mrs. Molinar, will be presenting to us. As a reminder, the intruder detection findings and an actual Region 11 continues to come through and because they have to meet a certain percentage of schools in their region, and we're such a large player in the region that for us, this is through October, I believe. Is that right?
Actually, we have it updated until yesterday,
Oh,
November
we updated
7th.
it. Thank you. But we will continue to have the audits occur, and then I've been thrilled with the results, so I will go ahead and turn it over to Mrs. Molinar.
Thank you, Dr. Ramsey. As you know, this is a required report from TEA, so we'll dig into it. Just a reminder, by September 1st, we were required as a district to turn in the following audits, establish our committee, complete training, and then have our scheduled procedures completed and turned into TEA by September 1st. And of course, we met that deadline. The intruder detection audit, you'll see here some bullet points. It really is about audit tests, whether our campuses are how they're able to access our exterior as well as our interior doors, as well as any visitors that may come on the campus and how our staff approaches those visitors. We're very happy to report that as of November the 7th, yesterday, we had 23 campus audits. 19 of those audits came back with no findings. We do have 4 audits that we have already completed work orders and have done required training for those findings, and we'll share those details, of course, in executive session with you this evening under safety and security. Just a reminder that we do a weekly, what we call a door sweep for our exterior doors, and this is something that we have added this year. And we have a log on every single campus of instructional facilities that we sweep doors, and we log those to make sure our exterior doors are safe, not propped open, and are working correctly. Just also a big reminder for us is about shared responsibility. Safety and security is not up to one person on a campus. It's not the responsibility of a SRO or a campus monitor. It's actually anyone in an instructional facility or a Fort Worth ISD building that we ask that when you go into a door, make sure that door is shut behind you, that you do not prop doors open. If you see someone in the halls that does not have a badge on, please approach them and ask them if you can help them, and then encourage all of our visitors to check into the main office. Safety really is a shared responsibility amongst all of us, and I think you'll see that in our audit report findings. We have 19 successful audit detections. And just a reminder for after hours, our safety and security team, they're always available and they're very busy on the weekends and after hours as well with all of our athletic events, as well as any maybe social media threats that we receive. But we do have a hotline. It is 24/7, 817-814-2699. So we encourage any parents or even faculty members after hours that have any type of concerns with safety, you use our hotline number. And that really concludes our report this evening.
Do we have any questions? Okay, we'll move on to public comment. I want to thank you, Team of One, Deputy Superintendent Dr. 2B Molinar. At this time, this board will hear public comment addressing items on the agenda as well as items of a general nature or topics not specifically listed on this agenda. Please allow me to remind you that because of restrictions by the Texas Open Meetings Act, board members may not engage in a verbal exchange about a subject that has not been posted. We will listen and we will take notes, but this board is prohibited from responding to any inquiries made during a board meeting on any topic not posted on the agenda. However, the board may reply with 1, a statement of specific factual information given in response to the inquiry, 2, recitation of existing policy in response to the inquiry, or 3, direct the person to visit with staff about the issue. While the board listens to concerns of a general nature, speakers, please practice normal rules of decorum. Vulgar language and profanity cannot be tolerated as this is a public meeting and our students are watching. Additionally, disruptions of the meeting will not be tolerated. We ask this audience to refrain from interrupting speakers and playing audio recordings while they present to the board. And I will remind each of you that audio recordings at the podium are not allowed to be played. Any employee, parent, or other member of the public is asked to comply with the appropriate grievance policy to have a complaint heard pursuant to the applicable board policy. No presentation may exceed 3 minutes unless the speaker has prior approval for additional time because of the use of a translator. Speakers who require the assistance of a translator are permitted double the allotted time of speakers who do not require the assistance of a translator. As soon as a speaker begins speaking, the time clock to your left will start. Furthermore, a speaker may not relinquish his or her time to another speaker. It's essential to gain as much public input as possible, and we understand together we're stronger and we build better solutions when we maximize public input. I ask that you please observe these rules for the purpose of effectively accomplishing the business of the meeting in a timely manner. Our first speaker is Ms. Miriam Lambert. She will be followed by Mr. Hector Ramos.
20 years ago, I was hired as school nurse at Success High School and was blessed to work there for 18 years. The school was the dream of a brilliant black educator, Franklin Berkeley. When I was hired, there were close to 400 students. Through the years, the designation attributed to Success was changed more than once, causing the enrollment to fall. There were often rumors of closing. For 25-plus years, Success met at Trimble Tech. There was always room, but sadly, always slander from the host school. As soon as Trimble Tech completed a multi-million-dollar renovation, there was suddenly no room left for Success. Tech was bigger and better, but too good for the most maligned among the Fort Worth ISD population, so Success was moved to the temporary buildings at Southwest High School. And now I hear that Success is moving once again, hopefully to a permanent home. During the daytime hours, the student body consists of refugees, all students of color from all over the world, largely from Middle East, Northern Africa, Asia, and Mexico. Did you know that Libyans and Egyptians have been neighboring enemies for generations? But at Success, the refugees learn about the American culture, as well as learning that those they thought were enemies are actual fellow human beings with the same dreams and desires. At night, the students consist of those who have been incarcerated, those that have children, those that need to work during the daytime, those with poor attendance, and those that generally disrupt the desired statistics from the traditional schools. Most attend out of choice. The faculty, administrative staff, police, hall monitors have poured their hearts into these students. Those of us who have been fortunate enough to serve these students have never let our political differences affect how we serve together. While you have collectively promoted CRT, the school with the most disenfranchised students of color has been treated very poorly. What is it you want from the CRT program? If you wish to build up students of color, then why do you shuffle Success around like a bad relative that you don't want the public to know about? Success does more for struggling people of color than any other school. So ask yourself if you really care about educating, or is CRT more about the desire to blame and shame lighter-skinned populations? Fort Worth ISD has a $2 million CRT committee and adds only excuses and no educational value. It is time to put your money and effort and pride into programs.
Mr. Ramos will be followed by Ms. Estella Williams. Hector Ramos. Estella Williams. Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Good evening to our superintendent and to president and trustees. I am Estella Williams, president of the NAACP of Fort Worth, Tarrant County. I'm standing before you this evening because of a concern. First, let me say thank you for the report that was given. However, I'm here to talk about a serious matter that if you turn your TV on, you'll hear the subject matter pretty much every day, and that is school safety. I'm here, I saw the report that was given. However, I know that there are problems. When you think in terms of the report shared that there was some assessment done out of just a few schools with many problems existing in many schools, my concern is it is serious. Do we wait until we are faced with an issue, or do we take a proactive approach and do something with the matter of safety yesterday, today, and days to come? I am aware that there was money that was granted in a bond to renovate some of the middle schools. However, the time is yesterday. We see the situations that are occurring throughout the United States, but I see situations in schools throughout this city whereby, yes, there are safety measures done with school doors. However, if a person comes to the door of the school and they give the right answer for their purpose of being there, there's assessment. However, that's not enough. There needs to be a method in place whereby those schools are safe. I know where a school is in this city, and certainly that report did not consist of that school assessment. The park, there is a park that is right next door to the school. You talk to one set of individuals, they said it belongs to the school. You talk to another set, they said it belongs to the city. Let's not keep passing the buck. Children are unsafe because there is no divide or nothing to separate the park from those students. No fence or nothing else. It is an unsafe place. That place has been known to where sex trafficking was carried out. There's still harm that is being done. You go by, there are students in the area of the park during the day because there's no separation. There are people that are community or persons that are adults sitting around, and what? There's no safety mechanism. So let's be real when we talk about school safety. Let's be real when we talk about the assessment that is being done at the schools. I will follow you and show you some of these places because it's a very serious matter. We don't need to wait until something drastic happens within our schools. There are things that are happening, and there are things that we hear about. There are things that we don't. But again, let's be honest and open and know that there is a need to do a factual assessment for safety within our school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carlos Tercios will be followed by Ms. Meredith Bowman.
All right, good evening, school board, and board president and superintendent Ramsey. Today I just want to talk about OSHA 30 certification. There actually is a whistleblower from Mr. Scott who is basically exposing how the independent school district exploited OSHA 30 and basically, as quote unquote, created a cash cow instead of placing priority on their success in their future. And I think it's a valid concern that I think the board needs to look at, this allegation that is coming out. And I will say that I actually did take OSHA when I was a senior. And I do have the little card, the little blue card. Some of my classmates actually took it as well, and I will say that we have not used it whatsoever. We spent hours and hours and hours. You can talk to my business teacher. It was a waste of time. A waste of time. You can go to my classmates, the ones that graduated, and even the juniors in that year that were taking it as well. It was a waste of time. And when it took a lot of space from business class, and we have not used it whatsoever. And I think, any type of whistleblower that comes out, I think needs to be protected. Any chronic issue from within the ISD, I think, needs to be addressed in any good way. And most importantly, I think the ISD has an obligation to make sure that this is corrected and make sure that this is actually addressed in a very good way, so that way parents can trust that they're actually sending kids and actually have the programs that actually help students. So that is basically my public comment for today is to, take this issue very seriously, because we want parents, we want taxpayers. I want my kids to come to Fort Worth ISD in the future, but if this keeps going on, I will surely send them to Keller ISD or Mansfield ISD or somewhere else, or a private school, because this is very concerning. Very concerning. And I will say that as a student, I did witness this. I did see this. You can talk to my business teacher. You can talk to a lot of students of my classmates as well, mostly Hispanic as well, 95% Hispanic in my school. And frankly, parents, if they see this, they probably don't want to send their kids to the Fort Worth ISD or to the business department. So please do your job, address this, and make sure that this is addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Meredith Bowman will be followed by Ms. Missy Cara.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Ramsey. I am Meredith Bowman, Fort Worth ISD taxpayer, mother of two, and Fort Worth ISD teacher. Looking over the agenda, I noticed item B2 was to approve purchase of an online assessment tool. I'm wondering, how, that is so vague. I'm wondering, what is that assessment? What is that exactly supposed to assess? Who does it assess, and is it actually necessary? I know the district is using many assessment tools for our students right now online. If this is for students, do we really need another assessment tool? We already have MAP testing, benchmark testing, STAR testing, and tests that the teachers do to keep the students assessed in their classrooms. Why are we spending more money on assessments? The teachers I know need more hands on deck. They need teachers, assistant teachers, to help them teach their students, not more assessments. I would like to also ask if this assessing online passed by the board is in compliance with the law. I'm also concerned with who takes responsibility for these things. This is going into another subject, but kind of connecting to responsibility on teachers or who is the one putting this into place. Teachers do what our bosses tell us. Our bosses do what their bosses tell them, and their bosses do what they're told. I just wonder what is in compliance and what's not. I mentioned this at the last meeting, and appreciative for the health curriculum agenda item last meeting to have been removed. However, I am still wondering if the district is in compliance with how they communicated the curriculum for the health that's being taught. I actually had 4 former students last year tell me they were very uncomfortable with the lessons from the 6th grade sex ed lessons. It made me wonder if the parents knew or if they had an opportunity to see the curriculum in privacy in their own home with their child, or maybe be able to go, if there was a school event where they were able to go and view it. So the teachers could actually show them what they're teaching. I remember doing both of these things with my daughters whenever they were in 5th and 6th grade. From my understanding, it was very difficult to arrange time recently with being able to view the curriculum. You must schedule an appointment either on school campus or here at the TLC. Then you must sit with the coordinators to view it. My question is, why not put all the opt-in lessons on a link and share it with those parents so they can view it at home in their own time? Or an offering to have an evening on campus as the teachers and principal go over what will be covered in those lessons. We talk a lot about equity in these meetings. So what about those parents that work during school hours and work during the time when the hours where the coordinators are available? What about parents that don't have transportation? I believe if there was more accessibility to these opt-in lessons, parents can make better choices for their children. These children are being raised by...
Thank you. Ms. Missy Cara will be followed by our final speaker, Mr. Barton Scott.
Well, hello. Some of you know that last Saturday that I attended the School Health Advisory Council meeting to review the Health Smart curriculum, where I observed multiple violations of Texas Education Code 28.004 and House Bill 1525. I also happen to see that the Health Smart is out of alignment with the TEKS. And what that means is that Fort Worth ISD's human sexuality curriculum and the SHAC are both currently out of compliance, and you've just been notified. Your response to this predicament will reveal a lot about who you are as a school district, a board, a department, and a person. We are at a pivotal time. The last couple of years have unveiled a lot of reasons why people have lost faith and trust in this board and district. Honestly, it's difficult for us to trust you when we see in here that you do not even trust one another, and we have to ask ourselves why. Also, we know that you have already have one curriculum out of compliance with the law, so that begs the question now, how many other programs and curricula do you have that are out of compliance as well? And what else might you be hiding from us, like surveys, services, assessments, data collection, or policy? I believe that our district and community will become better when we can work together. Do you want your student achievement to get better? Please work with us and not against us. Do you want student discipline and safety to improve? Please work with us and not against us. Please give us a reason to believe that we all can be part of true solutions here for the betterment of our children and our city. The hardest choices and decisions that we have to make are the ones that impact others. And in your instance, that will be for students and staff you serve, parents you claim to partner with, and the community that we all live in. And so, right now, I choose to forgive you for how this has impacted me personally, just as Christ has forgiven me. And I also choose to stand up for truth and righteousness when I'm given the opportunity, just like this. And we all have a choice about how we will respond to this particular issue. And the question is what will you choose to do? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barton Scott.
Good evening. My name is Barton Scott. I'm the CTE Department Chair at Young Men's Leadership Academy. I come to you to ask the Fort Worth ISD School Board to intervene and overrule the grievance dismissal made by Fort Worth ISD Chief Dr. Washington. I'm sure each of you are aware of the seriousness of the accusations made against senior leaders in the Fort Worth ISD Innovation Division, which I fall within their supervisory authority. If you are not aware, let me state for the record that in my opinion, Fort Worth ISD senior leadership has intentionally exploited seniors for the past 2 years and some current Fort Worth ISD scholars for financial gain by forcing them to take a certification that neither the TEA nor simple common sense would tell you is beneficial to their future. I'm also here to let the parents tonight know that there are over 250 victims that are now Fort Worth ISD graduates that should know the district is trying to silence me. As you will see in the grievance reply, Dr. Washington dismisses my case, which would have come to this board in December, and she takes a position that I want every parent to know. The position is a Fort Worth ISD teacher cannot advocate through the grievance process for the rights of their students. I feel like the district is saying to me, your job is to grade papers. Your job is to teach. But if a chief and his team, at best, intentionally force students to do things not in their interest, and at worst, truly exploit children for profit, you as a teacher have no right to complain. Is this what education has become to? There is a fired consultant. In her report to this board, it concludes that these children were treated as $5,000 cash cows. The reality is that we're going to also talk about how other exploitation is occurring in the innovation department, specifically how they partnered with Texas Instruments and let an outside corporation take control of degree plans, routing children of color and poverty into blue-collar jobs, working 12-hour shifts with an hour-and-a-half commute one way and then back, earning $20 an hour. That is not and should not be the gold standard for the future of kids of color and kids of poverty. I am grateful and thankful to Dr. Ramsey that she and I will be talking on Thursday, and I truly hope that we can come to a compromise where our children are put first and foremost. If we cannot, then I ask this school board to take control of this grievance and place it on the December agenda so that you can hear the facts. I don't ask you to take any other action than listen and have a clear, open mind, and then vote your conscience. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thanks to each of you for being here tonight, and thanks to each of you that shared your thoughts. We'll move to number 7 on the agenda, which is discussion of consent agenda items. As board president, I'm making the following statement in accordance with board policy BBFA local. This is a reminder to each board member of the legal conflict of interest requirements and disclosure requirements you may have for matters under consideration on this agenda for this meeting. If required by law, board members shall recuse themselves from all discussion and shall abstain from voting on any matter pertaining to such a disclosure. Also, please note that the item B5, approve renewal of technology service management system, has been pulled from the agenda and will not be addressed this evening. Again, B5 has been pulled. Are there any questions or concerns? Trustee Dar?
Thank you, President Jackson. Item B2, which I believe is Dr. Sorensen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, per the board book, it mentioned that the online assessment tool is the Naglieri, which is the GT testing.
Correct.
That is given to all students, or is that given to some students?
It is open to all students, but is it a screener for GT testing?
Okay. And is, knowing that not all students are excellent test takers.
Yes.
What other ways are we identifying students who are GT?
Thank you for asking that. So there is a talent pool. So we do identification through literature, through music, through art, through observation, through map testing, through conversation, through recommendation from their teachers. If parents want their kids identified, there's multiple ways that we do it. Michael Flouchet is here also as well. But I mean, we look to make sure that we are ensuring that our testing procedures are unbiased. And we make sure that we are looking to make sure that we are not creating disparity rates through making sure that we are looking to have students identified in multiple areas, not just literacy and math, science, because kids are gifted in multiple ways.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your answer.
You're welcome.
Dr. Ramsey?
Thank you. Administration's respectfully requesting the board to pull AEA local, which is under G for the second reading. We are going to pull that and bring back to you next month.
So we have officially pulled at Dr. Ramsey's request, consent item G, board policy AE local. AEA local. Thank you, Trustee Dar. And the time is now 7:10 p.m. The date is Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. We will now recess and reconvene for executive session as authorized by Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code under Sections 551, 071, 2, 4, and 6. In accordance with the open meetings law, this board opened the meeting at 5:30 PM with a quorum present, recessed and reconvened open session, adjourned regular session, convened executive session, adjourned executive session, and now reconvened open session at 8:45 PM with a quorum present. We are on number 12, accepting the consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Move, Trustee Ryan. Take a second from Trustee Phillips. Any discussion? Let's move to voting. And the consent agenda passes unanimously.
And President Jackson, just for the minutes, I think we have noted on there the items that were pulled from consent earlier.
Yes, and 13A is items removed from consent agenda. Those are B5 and AEA local, which was G. And that's under 13A action items. Thank you, council. Moving to 14 action agenda items, 14A, B, C, and D will be pulled. We'll move to 14E. I move to terminate Kathy Wilburn's probationary contract for good cause pursuant to Chapter 21 of the Texas Education Code. Trustee Evans with the second. Motion by Jackson, second by Evans. Any discussion? Please move to voting. And the motion passes unanimously. We will take action items F through L as one. Do I have a motion for items F through L? Yes, sir. Moved by Trustee Ryan. Do I have a second? Second, Trustee Dar. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none.
I have a question.
Yes, Trustee Dar.
With item L, approve resolution of the Fort Worth Independent School District Board of Trustees authorizing retention incentive. Can I get somebody to please let me know the dollar value for that retention incentive, please?
Are you asking for the total or for each employee? The total out of ESSER dollars is $22.36 million.
For each employee?
For each employee, it's
It's a $2,000 total. The first payout will be in December, $1,000 for full-time employees. The second payout is in June. That's also for 180-day subs. Then our part-time employees will be the amount of $1,000, and there'll be 500 and 500 payout, 500 in December, 500 in June. Tomorrow, we do invite our employees to check out our webpage. We'll have more details for qualifying information, and then also a contact email and phone number for any additional questions for this stipend.
Okay. Thank you.
And this will be less taxes, so this is a taxable stipend.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Dar, thank you for that question. And Deputy Soup, thank you for the clarification. Moving on, moved by Trustee Ryan, seconded by Trustee Dar. We're taking F through L as one. Please move to voting. And the motion passes unanimously. Item M, consider the level 3 grievance of Joe Palmer will not be addressed tonight. We are at number 15 on our agenda. Do we have any comments? Trustee Evans.
I just want to say thank you to all the teachers, administrators, and parents and student groups who helped put on the Arlington Heights Literacy Rally this past Saturday. Truly, learning is a family affair, and it was on full display there on Saturday, and I'm so appreciative for the whole pyramid that came out, got to meet a lot of new families, and it was exciting, and I would love to see more of these events throughout the district going forward.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you. Kirkpatrick Elementary and Kirkpatrick Middle School produced 2 amazing murals celebrating the diversity at their schools and at Fort ISD. Between just those 2 schools, there are over 20 countries represented. Thanks to all the staff, students, and volunteers who made the dream a reality, and thanks to our communications team for their positive media. And I enjoyed meeting with the Council of PTAs last week. Lots of great suggestions and feedback as we work together for our students. And regarding a couple of upcoming events, I am pleased that the Fort ISD is holding vaccination clinics at Arlington Heights and Eastern Hills, but these need to also be held in Southeast Fort Worth and the North Side. And I'm also concerned that about the cost, but we have discussed that. There are so many wonderful philanthropic efforts taking place in our schools. I'm excited to support the Northside High School Legacy Foundation, which provides scholarships for students like me, first-generation college-bound students. Their largest fundraiser will be held this weekend, and I am thankful that a couple of board members would join me in celebrating this wonderful foundation. And finally, as we begin the countdown to the holiday season, it is a time for reflection and being thankful for our blessings. Over the last few weeks, I volunteered at J.P. Elder and Kirkpatrick Middle School's food pantries. Together, they have provided meals to thousands who would have otherwise gone without. This urban school district, Fort ISD, continues to go above and beyond for our students and their families. We care about every single child, and I am proud to be part of this outstanding team. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Martinez.
Yes, I just wanted to give a kudos and congratulations to the Fort Worth ISD Multilingual Education Department, the Student Placement Center, Parent Partnerships, and all of the community partners that were involved in hosting Saturday's successful multilingual family health fair at Diamond Hill Jarvis High School. There were over 300 people in attendance for free flu shots, health and safety information, and other prizes, and it was a great turnout. It was a lot of fun. Thank you, Dr. Sorensen, for being there, and just seeing that level of community engagement was great. And then also I wanted to recognize the Diamond Hill Jarvis Heritage Foundation, who had a successful golf tournament on Friday, even despite the weather. Unfortunately, my flight was delayed and I was not able to make it, but I heard it was a great turnout, and they were able to raise money for the annual scholarships for students and student programs, and so kudos to them as well.
Thank you. Trustee Dar.
Thank you, President Jackson. Recently, I attended the Alice Carlson Applied Learning Center's Math-O-Ween, and we celebrated their math in lots of different forms. Every single thing on that campus was student-created, student-envisioned, student-led. There were dice games, and there were tunnels to crawl through, and there were math activities all over, and every one of them, like I said, was student-led. It was a remarkable evening, and I appreciate being a part of that and being welcomed onto that campus. And then last week, I had the pleasure of attending the Vital Link event, which thank you to Dr. Science, to Daphne Rickard, to all of those in CTE. Interacting with those kids, I left energized and optimistic, because we're in good hands with these kids. Hearing them talk about what they are learning in their classes, hearing them talk about future professions that they are already becoming passionate about, the promise and the potential in this room, actually, where we are sitting right now, was immense. It was almost overwhelming at times. It was so amazing. So thank you to the hard work that our CTE programs are doing. Thank you to the hard work that the kids are doing, and the leadership that's making it all happen. It was a great event.
Thank you. Trustee Bridges.
Shout out to CC Moss. They just had their student council election, and I was just so impressed to meet some of the students, and more importantly, the fact there were many parents that came out to support and encourage them. So as Trustee Dar just said, man, I'm just amazed at these young people, and we better watch out about 10, 15 years, because they may be coming for some of our seats. So just FYI, great group.
Thank you. Trustee Ryan.
Well, I have two things. First, I appreciate Dr. Coburn going out and working to get firms to come in and mow. I know we've been talking for a long time about trying to get local within the pyramid groups to parents that had mowing services come in. I think this is a great step to start working at. The second thing I've got is not that pleasant. President Jackson, since we started looking at people for superintendents, and I looked at the resumes of all of them, I knew that when we looked at Dr. Ramsey's, that I was going to have some problems that were intractable and irreconcilable, and they're just not going to work out. But all I can say, Dr. Ramsey, is go Navy, beat Army.
Trustee Luebano, stop that.
Thank you, President Jackson. The last couple of weeks, I was invited to attend a couple Day of the Dead events at elementary schools in South Side. Greenbrier hosted their first Day of the Dead event. It was a very successful event. The community came together. Other elementary schools were on site helping out. So it was very nice to see so many people involved. And Friday, I attended at Wilkerson the showcase, the city programs that we have. And like the Trustee Dar mentioned, it's amazing to see the excitement on the students, on their work. They are very proud of the work that they're producing, the robots that they're showing you. And so it's exciting to see the things that are happening at our high schools. I was very excited to see that. I was sad at that moment when I was in high school, those programs were not in existence. But I'm proud to tell others, this is the things that are happening. We're telling our story. Come see us, and you be happy to be in one of those programs. Howard Heights also did a fall festival. I was part of a pie throw in your face. It was not whipped cream, it was shaving cream. South Hills they did also a Day of the Dead event, and George Clark had their fall festival too. So very thankful to the communities on those schools who come together, the parents and the local partnerships around to come out and help out our students. Thank you.
Dr. Ramsey.
We have Veterans Day coming up, and so to piggyback on that, I just want to thank all of those staff members, parents out there, anyone who's involved with our school district, including military children. Just want to say thank you for your service to our country. And also, as we go into the Thanksgiving break, it is my sincere hope that all of our staff members and our families have a safe and wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Dr. Ramsey. On November the 19th, Giving Thanks is a partnership between Albertsons, who is located very close to this building, and the Tomlinson Foundation will be at Eastern Hills High School from 9 a.m. to noon. They will give away 300 vouchers, and they pre-qualify these families, so it is a very needs-driven activity. And I want to thank the Tomlinson Foundation and Albertsons for that. I want to thank the Poly Alumni Association. There were some technical needs in the media department. The students needed specific cameras and specific lenses, and they coughed up not hundreds but thousands of dollars and didn't flinch with a unanimous vote. Thank Drayon Jones for being out in the rain and the drizzle at the T.A. Sims build for Kaboom Playground. And I especially want to thank Rick Dixon, the athletic director over at Texas Wesleyan University. He took nearly 450 students in separate groups from William James Middle School onto the Texas Wesleyan University campus. They attended and visited classes. They went to the library. They dined. They compared the food to food at home, and to food at our schools. And they said, we're doing okay, Wesleyan's doing okay, but home's doing better. And they also saw athletics. But the cool part about this was 95% of these babies had never been on a college campus before. And many of them said, this is a choice for us now. And the good news is when they're at William James and they move on to Poly, they can apply for the Speak Up scholarship. So on that, we're adjourned.